This YCN segment is brought to you by Lake Sunapee Visiting Nurse Association and Hospice.
Welcome in, YCN Sports Talk. Jeremy Stout, and this week in studio I have Brett Franklin from 94 ESPN Radio. And Brett, thanks again for joining us.
Thanks for having me, Jeremy. Happy summer.
Yes, exactly. It is finally here, and it's about to get a lot hotter. And every weekday from 12 to 1, you can catch Brett Franklin on 94.3 in Claremont, 94.5 in White River Junction, also online, 945ESPN.com. So, Brett, as we move into the summer, we still have a little bit of basketball to talk about. Free agency beginning. The draft just passed last week. So let's touch on that draft. The Celtics standing pat with that number 27 pick. There were rumors that they were, even that afternoon of the draft, that they might move up to make a trade. They stood pat. Danny Ainge took his man, Robert Williams of Texas A&M. First of all, were you surprised that they didn't trade and just stood pat there?
I'm not totally surprised. I think when you look at it, I didn't expect the Celtics to have a lot of movement. There were some rumors that they might want to jump in the top 10 and go after Luka Doncic, the point guard from overseas. But kind of surprised Robert Williams fell to where they were. I mean, he was projected as a top 15 pick. I mean, there were some rumblings that there were some off-the-court issues, but never really found out what they were. Also seems like might have been a little bit of an attitude adjustment, but the kid is big. He's averaged almost a double-double his freshman and sophomore year. He was part of the Aggies' run in the NCAA tournament last year. He's got a big 7'6" wingspan. He's 6'10", and that's what the Celtics need. They need a rim protector. They need a big man that can play defense and that can rebound, and I think they found him in Robert Williams. Now, again, I don't know how many minutes he's going to play next year, but I think from where the Celtics were sitting and the value they got him at, I think it was a win-win.
Yeah, and I think that's a big thing, is that value that you speak of, because he did start to drop, and you hear whispers of something that might be going on or something off the field like you mentioned, or off the court like you mentioned, but really, it was a steal, and a lot of people that they talked to said that was great value that the Celtics got. And now going forward to next year, that is that guy, because they used to have Al Horford play the number 5, and he was obviously smaller, and he's more suited for a 4 or something like that. So does Williams get that start? I mean, this is a young team, let's not forget. They're used to throwing young guys in. They had to this year and last year. Maybe he gets right in there.
Yeah, could very well. I mean, it looks like indications are Aaron Baines is going to come back to the Celtics. But this gives you another big man to back him up. And like you said, Al Horford can go back to playing a 3 or a 4 where he's usually accustomed to. Yeah, I mean, he could very well. It would not surprise me if Williams came in and played significant minutes. And you mentioned some of the off-the-court issues or attitude issues, whatever they are. Celtics are a veteran-laden team. Those guys are going to keep him in check if it gets to that point. But I think Brad Stevens is going to really enjoy coaching this kid, and I think he's going to make his mark here in Boston.
Yeah, so it'll be interesting to see what happens in the upcoming days. As I mentioned, free agency beginning. Still rumors out there about Kawhi Leonard, where he's going, obviously where LeBron James is signing. So we'll see if the Celtics get in any of that action. But off the court, the award ceremony was earlier this week, and we talk about young players, and we talk about Rookie of the Year award, and obviously Jason Tatum not winning that award. That was Ben Simmons, and then Donovan Mitchell was second. Are you surprised with that Jason Tatum was so far behind? Because it was pretty clearly Simmons and then Mitchell.
Well, yeah, I mean, it was. I thought Tatum really made his mark in the playoffs.
Right.
Obviously, they don't count the playoffs when they go to the voting. So if you're looking at the whole body of work, Tatum had a great season, don't get me wrong, but I think he elevated his game more so in the playoffs. Simmons played in Philadelphia, really part of that resurgent team. I don't think you could have went wrong with either of those guys. Obviously, being a Celtics supporter, you would have liked to see number 0 get a little bit more love. But I think he really came about in the playoffs. And I think the playoffs should be considered when voting for these awards, because if that were the case, Brad Stevens should have easily taken home Coach of the Year.
Well, and even if you don't count the playoffs, it was kind of a strange situation there that he didn't even really come anywhere close to Coach of the Year.
That's the biggest one that I have an issue with is the Coach of the Year award, and Brad Stevens really didn't get any love across the board for what he did in the season. Gordon Hayward and Kyrie Irving missing a combined 103 games, and you still were able to get the number 2 seed. It's pretty darn good in my book.
And get to the Eastern Conference Finals, basically a few minutes away from getting to the finals. So moving on to the biggest award of the night, the MVP, and James Harden finally walks away with the trophy. I got to imagine this was a well-deserved, and finally he gets what he should at this point in his career.
Yeah, you know, I think he really turned it on another level this year. But you know, I forget what the stat was, but you know, 65-win team, MVP. Yet still couldn't get over the hump against the Golden State Warriors. And then there is a faction out there that said LeBron James should have been considered, and very well so. Again, another situation in the playoffs where he took the team, literally dragged them all the way to the finals.
Yes.
But Harden, that would have been my vote. Have no issues with that.
Yeah, I mean, you got Russell Westbrook, obviously Kevin Durant, and now James Harden completing the trifecta that used to be all together in OKC.
I was just about to say, what if they all played together on one team? What would that have been like? Well, I guess we'll never know.
Yes, we'll never know, because that won't happen again. So lots to talk about in the NBA offseason coming up in the summer, but we are going to take a break and come right back. We'll talk some Red Sox on the field. They're playing pretty well. What does Brett look for in the second half of this Red Sox team? You're watching YCN Sports Talk.